This is KTN News.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. Let's talk matters ecotourism now. And the conservation of the country's forests remains a major challenge for conservationists. And the Kenya Forestry Research Institute is raising awareness on sustainable management, conservation, and sustainable development for all types of forests for the benefit of the current and future generations. However, despite all these efforts, we continue to destroy the very forests we need for our survival. Kenya, with around 7% forest cover, is yet to get a 10% with a 2022 target months away from now. And to dissect more on this issue and help us understand more on the role that Kenya Forest and Research Institute plays, we're now joined by Dr. Joshua Cheboiwo, who is the KEFRI Director, the Kenya Forest Research Institute Director. Thanks so much for your time and welcome to Morning Express. And I must ask the first question from a point of curiosity. We've heard of the Kenya Forest Service. What exactly does KEFRI do? What's your mandate as the KEFRI Director?
Thank you, Rogers. Kenya Forest Research Institute is an agency of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, just like Kenya Forest Service. Our clear mandate is research. We develop research technologies, practices, management practices, and bringing emerging issues to this country in terms of forestry, so that it can help Kenya to do its conservation and also develop its commercial businesses in the area of forestry and the environment. So in the architecture of government, Kenya Forest Research Institute is well placed in the area of technology development, dissemination, and capacity building of the sector in terms of forestry and allied natural resources. Kenya Forest Service is in the management. It's our client. All the technologies which Kenya Forest Service is using come from Kenya Forest Research Institute. And that comes to say, who is KEFRI? KEFRI is a premier institution in terms of forestry research, highly ranked in Africa. It's almost number 3, and globally in terms of development, dissemination, and capacity building of stakeholders in the area of forestry and allied natural resources. Secondly, KEFRI, what is its scope? KEFRI have 18 sub-centers spread across the country.
Okay.
6 are regional, which cover the coastal ecoregion, dryland, which is based in Gede, dryland research ecoregion, which is based in Gitui, Central Highlands, which is based in Muguka here, near Nairobi. We have also Forest Product Development Center in Karura. And then we have Rift Valley, Central Highlands west of the Rift Valley. That's another center. And then we have Lake Basin, which is covered by Maseno. And within these 6 centers, there are sub-centers. And each of these centers are supposed to cover at least 2 to 3 counties in this country.
Okay.
When it comes to how do we engage the public all the time, because the research we do is supposed to serve the public.
Of course.
We usually have our strategic plan, which is rolling every 5 years, in which we undertake a very, very thorough consultative process in which all the issues which stakeholders have, which require to be researched, are to be resolved in the area of forestry and allied natural resources, are usually documented, and then we package it and put in that particular document, and we can have up to almost 700 targets which are required to be delivered in 5 years. And in every year, we usually have our annual plan in which new areas which are emerging is usually discussed at the regions, and then they are packaged and then put in our annual plan, which puts in place all other issues. As I said, the strategic plan brings up the national policies, legislation, global processes, conventions, and treaties in which this country has committed itself or assigned in which to deliver. Therefore, we package it to deliver for the country in this particular strategic plan.
Well, that's the value of the stakeholders. But let's get into the thick of it. Are you developing guidelines in terms of rehabilitating forests in the country, and perhaps the advent use of technology as well when it comes to protecting the forest in the country? And I'd beg to ask the question, does this involve working with farmers? Because at times agriculture might hamper the forest cover in the country when it comes to forest biodiversity. Kindly add your voice to this.
Yeah, that brings in what is the value of KEFRI to all Kenyans across the country. Every tree which you grow in this country for purposes of commerce and conservation, it is a product, or you are using technologies developed by KEFRI. If you are a farmer, if you are a commercial tree grower, if you are Kenya Forest Service, if you are an NGO, and many other stakeholders who are in the forest sector, KEFRI is the premier institution which gives you which species can grow where in this country, for what purpose, and to achieve what products, and if it is for conservation or for commercial purposes. This is the guidelines in which we develop. And you have talked about farming landscape.
Yeah.
Trees in this country have entered in the farming landscape since 1950s in the planning of farms. Trees have been usually the markers, and from there for amenity, and of recent times, when the demand is exceeding what is being produced by Kenya Forest Service or public forests, farmers have entered into business of tree growing. So, and they are finding a niche, either as a woodlot set aside, boundary planting, or a commercial plantation within farms. So, farmers, not only are they deliberating on or making decisions on agricultural productivity, but they have also diversified into tree production for various purposes, I said amenity and up to commercial purposes.
Okay, and that's proper, because I'm pretty sure KEFRI plays a part in terms of research on suitable seedlings for farmers, but are you playing a part in making this easily accessible to farmers across the country as we incorporate farming and forestry as well?
As I said, our mandate of KEFRI is to develop technologies which are really propagated under our main 4 agendas. Agenda 1 is to undertake research. Agenda 2 is to disseminate research. 3 is to build capacity. And 4 is to build collaboration or cooperation with many other stakeholders and agencies in the country and globally. So once we develop the technology, our business is to continue being our crystal ball in the global processes to ensure that this country gets the best technology available anywhere in the world, to ensure that our farmers, our conservation efforts are well informed by the best practices available globally and also within the country. So there are players who will be working with the farmers, like Kenya Forest Service, CPOs, NGOs, other extension agencies. But our main agenda is to really develop the technologies and then pass on through our second and third mandate of capacity building and also dissemination through various forums to the real players in that particular who come into contact with farmers. We only come into contact with farmers in few areas. In our dissemination, if you go to any ASK show in this country, you'll find KEFRI there. We hold the field days, and we also do plan. Once we have processed our technologies to the tune of now outscaling into farms, then we demonstrate in many farmers across the country to show other farmers that is a new technology in the area of forestry, which you'll be able to observe and be also uptake it in your coming planning of introducing forestry into your farms. That is what really KEFRI does.
Okay, so it's sort of technical support services in one way or the other. So, Daktari, let's talk about conservation efforts in this country. How exactly is KEFRI supporting this conservation effort, even as we root for 10% forest cover by 2022?
Conservation is a very, very critical mandate of KEFRI. Natural forests are very, very critical assets of this country, and therefore KEFRI technologies are really crucial in managing some of these resources. KEFRI undertakes what's called degradation surveys, and we develop indexes. How degraded is this forest? what do you require, what is the level of intervention measures in terms of investment and costing, so that the other players now can be able to be informed in their decision to rehabilitate. If there are intact forests, we say this is a very stable forest, we must remove or minimize drivers because it's at its optimum. If it's already degraded, there are 4 degradation levels in which we identify, and then we now inform or we develop guidelines on how to intervene in each of them. If there are no more, if the forest has been destroyed and there are no more what's called seed banks. Seed banks are the seeds which are already in the soil, which can enable the forest to regenerate itself. If there are no more there, if there was cultivation of 20, 30 years, then we say the intervention is to plant new trees. If there were trees remaining, remnants which can produce seeds around there, and they are representative of the species which are there, we can say we can retain those trees and see if the seeds can be able to move out and then be able to regenerate. If there isn't there, then we recommend complete planting of the species which are replica of what was there.
Okay.
So in terms of also management, we also study on models of collaboration with the local communities which are there. We have what's called participatory forest management. We have community forest associations. KEFRI does a lot of capacity building in this area so that they can identify their role, and we continue monitoring if they are playing their role as specified in their understanding and coming together with the Kenya Forest Service. We also do what's called payment for environmental services, in which conservation agencies or players are also compensated for this particular effort, and we try this to bring it into practice. So all this is related to motivating people to conserve the forest, natural forest assets, which are critical for water and also our biodiversity and many other natural assets of this country.
Okay, that's well noted. And you well know we're in the thick of a drought that sort of occurs year after year. So I'll beg to push that question still on conservation. What exactly is KEFRI, or perhaps KFS as well, who's the bigger brother, doing in terms of making sure that deforestation is in the past? As we go forward, we are set to increase the forest cover. How do we achieve this, even as we're trying to curb drought and floods during rainy seasons? How do we approach this, especially from a KEFRI point of view?
Yes,
Yeah.
KEFRI, as I said, is a technology development institution, and in the area of expansion of forestry cover or tree cover in this country, we have quite critical roles in which we do. KEFRI has a mandate in production of tree seeds, and for all the stakeholders in this country. So during this particular campaign by the government to increase our forest cover from 7.2% to 10%, we were mandated to move up our game in seed production. And we have moved from an average of annual 10 metric tons per year to 55 metric tons from 2018 to 2021, which is a very, very big jump for us to really ensure that we service the desire of the country in terms of bringing in many seedlings, which will be raised 2 billion seedlings, which the government has estimated, which will move us from 7.2 to 10% forest cover. Technologies also we bring in. We have brought in an app in which people can go to our website, and wherever you are, you can ask, which trees can I grow here, for what purpose, and can give you, so that, and which is the nearest nursery from where you are, to access those seedlings for your purpose. We are also monitoring, we are given that mandate by the government. We have also put up an app in which anybody planting any tree anywhere in the country can upload, and we can take in the grids or the GIS locations and the number of trees you have planted, and then it continue adding towards April 2022, the time in which His Excellency was trying to push 10% forest cover to be achieved.
So that's not a far-fetched dream. We are set on this goal in achieving 10% forest cover, yeah?
We shall try our best as a country through very many private sector, public sector. The ministry is really pushing hard on this, and we are really crystal clear, and we are hoping that we shall be able to attain what this country has set. Whatever we shall learn alone, and we move around. This is not something for once. It will continue becoming our role or our responsibility to really move this country 10% cover and beyond. And we might even surpass. There are very many players who are doing very good job.
All right.
And we are very optimistic about this.
Okay, well noted. Let's talk about biodiversity and environment management. I hope it falls under your scope of research because we have a lot of land in the country that needs restoration. When we talk about degraded lands, how do we approach this from a research point of view to make sure that these parcels of land don't fall in terms of value when it comes to planting trees or the likes? What's your take on this?
Quite a number of our assessment of forest estates or forests in this country, those ones which are under the state, which is mostly Kenya Forest Service, almost 60% are degraded. And why? We are a growing country, and now we are a natural resource-based extraction country in terms of our people. We don't have a lot of industries. We can take these people from the farms to other meaningful jobs outside the land. So the land pressure is really very heavy. Livestock raising, people trying to get some land out of the natural assets of this country, people trying to extract materials from there for purposes of income. All these are the drivers. And to address the drivers, we have been undertaking a lot of education, capacity building, to educate the public that this is your natural assets for this country and for the future generation. Let us conserve them for posterity and also the uniqueness for this country. And as we do that, we are also expecting other sectors to develop. Manufacturing, which we are also, forest sector is addressing it, so that they can move, create jobs, to move people from extractive engagements into intensive farming and also manufacturing, to move them out of this. KEFRI, as I said, is already having quite an array of technologies in which you can rehabilitate these forests very fast. Drylands is another very, very focused areas. Out of our 18 centers, 7 centers are covering drylands. And since 1986, KEFRI has intensified its research and technology development in dryland areas. We are in our Center of Excellence for Dryland in Kitui. We have screened over 74 species from Kenya and other countries, which can be utilized by the dryland communities and even businesses. Out of that, we have moved 4 into now level of breeding and improving productivity and marketing them for investors to take on in the country. Yeah. But the drylands is still facing a very, very big challenge. Movement of livestock, which are not conducive to which is very, very capital intensive and expensive. So under these challenges, KEFRI is willing. We are in the Turkana County. We tell them, you don't need to go to Israel. We have what it takes to reforest the Turkana County. We have the technologies when we want as a country to address. So as we have said, KEFRI is in all the conservation of natural assets across, from the drylands to mangroves and also the montane forests of this country.
Okay, that's well noted, because it's not just about the quantity of forest cover, but the quality as well. And I'm sure through the research, KEFRI is sort of bumping up in terms of the quality and quantity as well. Thank you for your time. That's all we had time for. Dr. Joseph Cheboiwo, who's joining us, the KEFRI director, who are playing a key part in terms of boosting the forest cover in the country, working with various stakeholders in order to bring us to a point where we can actually say, in terms of quality and quantity, we've achieved that particular 10% forest cover. It's an ongoing process, and we'll definitely continue evaluating it as members of the Fourth Estate. Many thanks for making time for Morning Express as well. That particular conversation brings us to the end of this particular edition of Morning Express. It's a pleasure to have you with us as we get to inform you about the latest developments. My name is Jesse Rogers. Do stay tuned to KTN News. Up next, News Center. Good morning.